Welcome to the Tourism AI podcast, where we talk about all things at the intersection of tourism and artificial intelligence. And more these days, also marketing. Because before I introduce our guest today, I'm going to maybe just make the comment of I'm writing actually an updated keynote for the fall here, talking about the work that tourism experts have to sort of do around AI adoption. And a big part of AI adoption is also adapting to the changing search environment and the changing behaviors of consumers when it comes to how they, sort of look for things to do, hotels to book, and all those types of things. And so for me, it's sort of AI adoption and AI adaptation are the two things that everybody needs to do. And to me, actually, the underlying work has some similarities. I'm not going to sort of give away too much about that because we're going to have a pretty robust conversation today with Christine Malfair, who is a hotel marketing expert who works primarily with independent hotels, but others as well. And I want to give Christine a couple minutes to introduce herself. But before she does that, I just want to say, you know, I follow her on LinkedIn, and I think she does a fantastic job of talking about topics that are amazing and very topical. And that's kind of what led me to reach out to her because I'm constantly reading everything she's writing and talking about. And it's very aligned in my mind with what we need to be talking about in this industry. So with that, Christine, why don't you do a quick introduction to yourself, a little bit about your background and what makes you sort of the hotel marketing guru that you are.
Thank you. And thanks for mentioning LinkedIn. It's a fun place to advance conversations with the world. I have made so many connections with the world. It's crazy. And with you, thank you for this invite. Yeah, my name's Christine Malfair. I started Malfair Marketing in 2010 after being a general manager of hotels in the Bow Valley, like Banff, Canmore area, and really found like hotel managers and teams were pretty overwhelmed when it came to marketing. And so at the advice of some people that I had worked with, I left the GM seat and started this. So I bring a unique perspective in terms of marketing, having done digital marketing for the most part, but also working with hotels on guest experience and so on. And bringing the ops side and the marketing side together is really sort of my unique view of things.
Yeah. I love that. And I will say that one of the things I really like about a lot of the posting that you do is actually what your self-introduction really kind of nailed it, is that sort of like, okay, you got your marketing team doing one thing and then your operations, people sort of doing something that actually seems to be working against what the marketing team, you're often posting about sort of, okay, the front desk person is answering and saying this, where the marketing team's trying to like make this happen, and there's like this disconnect that's happening,
Yes.
right? So why don't we maybe spend just for before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about, kind of maybe just tell me a little bit about sort of that part of your experience, your unique positioning, and sort of what you see happening kind of at the intersection of marketing and operations, where you think there could be some opportunities for hoteliers and others.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a really important discussion because I think it really drives so much. Everybody, you know, we talk a lot about getting in alignment, but it's a matter of like, how do you really do that? And what are we aligning to or behind? And so, for example, the problem shows up when you have one team, say it's your revenue management team that has certain KPIs for driving occupancy. And then you have the marketing team over here, which is trying to drive the direct channel. So if the revenue team is focused on driving occupancy, then that's not necessarily always the most profitable piece. And so we have direct marketing campaigns that go out and they're curated and the team spends a lot of time. And then days later, an OTA promo comes out to try and drive business to for the same room. The problem is that the guest goes on your website or onto the OTA channels. Oftentimes they actually do both. We sometimes think that people just land on the OTAs and stay there, and they don't. Data shows that they move around to different points, but they're always checking your website at some point. So that's why websites for hotels are so important. And then what happens is you have a guest who's confused. You have staff who don't feel confident because they're not always sure that the direct price is the best. So that's just like a smaller scenario. And I like to use the analogy of like picnic games. One is you have a revenue tug of war going on where everybody's trying to move towards, get the rope over their side. their KPIs, or you can play the picnic game of the what I like to call the four-legged race. And the four-legged race is where all the teams are working together in unison to get across the finish line. So those teams would be sales, marketing, and revenue.
I love that. And I wanted to start there because it really, to me, aligns with a lot of the things I talk about when it comes to AI adoption and sort of how to get people using AI and sort of, and it's all about alignment, right? And it's all about, I always say it's people and culture first. And I think a lot of what you talk about on LinkedIn and a lot of sort of the messaging I'm seeing from you, it's really about alignment and aligning the sort of the goals and the people and the culture and making sure everybody's, to your point, rowing in the same direction or sort of, you know
Yes.
what I mean? So it's the same, honestly, probably in every aspect of business. But I think, when it comes to this sort of aligning, the revenue and the marketing and all that piece, similar to sort of adopting AI, I think a lot of the same principles apply, right? And so, but to me, it's all tourism organizations need to start really thinking strategically about sort of the future and where they're going and aligning people, culture, values, priorities all together and start rowing in the same direction.
Yes, I think those are the core foundation. That's the core foundation.
I think it is. Yeah, it's kind of amazing to me how little that happens in many organizations. It's a hard piece, right?
It is a hard piece. I think it's often skipped over because we want to jump right into the to-do list.
Yeah, yeah, and if I can sort of jump back over to AI adoption, it's like everybody wants to talk about the tools they're using, and I always say it's people and culture first, systems and processes second, tools third, right? Tool is just an
Yes.
enabler, and I think it's the same probably thing when it comes to what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yes. And I like to say, like, also, I think a lot of marketers are plagued by the mentality of more, right? Like, there was this piece where we were like, oh, well, online, maybe you do ads, maybe you do a website, but then now all of a sudden social comes on. And so now we're like, we've spent the last 10 years working through what all that means, and it's taken that long. And now AI is here, and we're like, another thing, right? And yeah, there's a lot of more, more, and more. We have
There's a
to do
lot
what
of
makes
more, and I
sense.
think I think it's getting more complicated, which doesn't help when it comes to sort of brands understanding what to do and how to do it, right? Which is hopefully where somebody like you or somebody like me comes in to lend a helping hand.
Yes, yes.
Nice, awesome. So, kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of the topic here. Let's start off with just obviously the changing where we started is the sort of changing consumer behavior and AI search. I literally had 3 meetings today already about this common topic. Kind of people are changing, and every time I have this conversation with somebody, it's, oh yeah, I've totally stopped using Google. This is what I do now, or I use Google, but I use AI overviews or whatever, right? And so, let's start there. How are people finding hotels in AI search based on the work you're doing and the experience you have? And kind of how do hotels need to prepare for this kind of changing search behavior?
Well, I think I'll just share a number. And I think that's always sort of proof, of what's happening. So in March, I saw a very small number in Google Analytics for one particular hotel that I work with. And it was in the double digits. And I was like, oh, okay, here we come, right? So I'm starting to think, okay, ChatGPT is now referring the website. And so that's cool. And then the next month it was doubled. And then the next month it was doubled. And now it's into like the three and another client's in the four-figure range. And that's like 1,240% increase. So I know that that percentage sounds really big. And it is relative to where maybe Google organic search is. It's still small. Google's going to be a dominant player there, but overviews changes quite a bit. And just to see those pieces show up in analytics, like all the signals, all the flares are going off that this is happening. So I think, people's search is like their search strings have changed. So in the last year, we're starting to see like it used to be like the 1, 2 word keywords and the long tails were like 5, 6. And you really wanted, if you were lower in budget, you wanted to target the 5, 6 because there less competition and so on. And now, I like to say there's there's keyword research, and now it's prompt research. And it's really taking those old keywords and just flipping them into like forms of questions. And that's a great place to start, right? It's just saying, here's the questions. What's on people's minds? And because it is and I think one thing that marketers would benefit from really, truly, deeply understanding is that this is, I know Perplexity is an answer engine, but these really are conversational engines. So, you know, we no longer are putting in, we're creating commands and questions. And so we have to think in that way as marketers. And then some of the easiest ways what people can do is look at their website content. That's just ground zero. Like, yes, there's other elements that are really important, like your Google business listing, optimizing that. I did a quick recording of that and it took me 13 minutes. Now, granted, I know where to go and so on, but it's not a heavy lift is my point. And then we have, those who maybe feel like, oh, I can't get my website AI ready. That seems like such a crazy thing to do. Like, I don't even know where to start. And the idea is step one is to start with the content you already have. Look at it and say, how can we convert this more in? How can we, instead of having one FAQs page, have FAQs throughout that are pertinent to those particular pages? So if you have a pet-friendly hotel page, like put in all your pet-friendly FAQs on there. Don't let that hide on a downloadable PDF. And it's just
That's
really
right. Yeah.
simpler things like that, I think, that'll really make a
It
difference.
is simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm going to kind of reference a post I came across yesterday, a pretty awesome comprehensive article on kind of this whole topic. They sort of they researched a bunch, what's the great, all the latest information, all the latest studies, bunch of prompts, bunch of things, and they kind of listed it in terms of importance. Here's the things they listed that are most important signals, and nobody knows the answers exactly, but this is sort of the best information. Is number one, number one is comprehensive coverage, or sorry, structured content.
Yep.
So clean formatting, FAQs, schema, content that fully answers queries, right? That is the strongest signal that they found in their research.
Yeah.
Number two is comprehensive coverage. So, comprehensively covering the topic, answering the questions in as much detail as possible, right? And then number three, they had brand mentions in digital PR. So that's sort of mentions in PR, roundups, authority sites to make the LLMs remember you better, and then the EAT and credibility. So the Google's EAT framework, so authority, expertise, trustworthiness, all those things are important. And then there's some other stuff, but all of the stuff that I just mentioned, maybe other than maybe the digital PR, really focuses on page content, structure, how you write things, right? So really where we are now is, and really what we're doing is we're creating almost websites and content for two users, the human user and the large language model or the agentic user, right? And we're starting to understand the way that the information needs to be structured for that agentic user, for the large language model, right? And it's not that dissimilar really to the human user, but it's sort of like almost like this kind of like two webs that we're starting to see evolve. Is that how you're seeing the world as well?
Totally, totally agree with you. And I've hosted a couple of sessions on getting your marketing AI ready. And the one question, comes up is like, well, now we're writing for AI. And I said, no, you're writing for humans who are using AI. And so there's that intersection to your point. And I think that when we look at comprehensive coverage, I would just add that we have seen the age of AI slop, where it was just like churn, 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 articles, write you blogs, and we have a whole lot of content out there. And just because we've produced it doesn't mean, to your point, when you mentioned number two on comprehensive coverage, that really is like, yes, use your ChatGPT or your, AI writers to get you started, but then inject what you deeply know to be true in your destination or at your hotel that AI doesn't know about you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all that nuanced stuff that the humans really know, and that the AIs will never know until we put it on our website, and then it can learn and
And then they'll
and
know.
go from there, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of a circular thing. Yeah. So, in terms of how you approach this, so do you kind of do audits for hotels in terms of their AI search visibility? Is that how you kind of typically like to start things?
Yes. So for the last couple of years, I've been doing what I call a revenue roadmap. And I know you have a roadmap. I watched a couple of your episodes there on YouTube. And I've done a roadmap to look at all digital things. And just this last year, I built in a system for looking at AI visibility. Now, it affects every single one of them. So, there isn't anything that AI isn't looking at. And in fact, like some data that I found that was really interesting from, um, you know, webinar that I attended on this subject was, who are the LLMs citing most often? And I think, we obviously think, oh, I've got to be in Google Business Profile. That is like, for sure, you've got to be there. Updating your content and doing those things. But new ones to add, Reddit, the forums, Wikipedia. There's a lot of properties that have no presence in Wikidata or Wikipedia. Those are like ChatGPT. That was a clear winner of the data that it sourced. Reddit for perplexity, and then, to no surprise, YouTube for AI overviews because it's Google. So a lot of hotels are busy out there doing reels, creating social media content, but they're not taking that and getting it up on YouTube, which is a really easy thing. So that would be a great thing for them to do.
100%. And the Wikipedia, I've literally had this conversation earlier today too, because like the Wikipedia one is interesting because it's almost like the end. Because in order to actually be able to build a good Wikipedia page, is you actually need citations, you need some PR, you need some articles about you, right? So you need to do that foundational PR work and digital PR work in order to even build a Wikipedia page, right? So it's sort of
Yes,
like,
that's
you know,
important
it's
to
it's
add.
it's not that easy. I've tried to build Wikipedia pages for businesses that are almost non-existent, and it's like it takes time, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's why it's a good source for these large language models because the
Yes.
way Wikipedia is structured is it like actually needs that to have that third party verifiable data and information, and it's sort of like that's why it's a trusted source, right? So
Correct.
there's a whole bunch of work that needs to happen in order to get there. But in the meantime, you mentioned Reddit. That's a huge one, and I think for hotels, that's a really big place to be playing a role. And so,
It is.
even social media kind of is changing, if you will, in terms of what we define as social media these days. Is that sort of how you see the world as well?
Oh, yes. And like I posted about this some time ago, that it's not just the reviews that your guests have and what they're saying about you in Reddit, but it's also what your staff are saying in there too. And I think I remember Connor Galway actually said, like, do not promote in Reddit. And I mean, that's an obvious to me, but I think if the marketer's brain is in there, they're like, oh, if I just could say, like, oh, we have a promo for that, or we have something here. It's like you'll get you'll get your knuckles wrapped for sure by trying to be salesy in there. These are people that want to have conversations, that want to feel like they're in their private community of peers. So
Yeah, and it needs to be authentic. I mean, back to, Google's EAT framework. That's actually to me fundamentally the one piece that hasn't changed and won't change, right? Like we need to be authentic, we need to be trustworthy, we need, right? Like everything we're talking about sort of still kind of like meets that framework. And so fundamentally as a brand, any brand in the world, no matter what you do, it's like you gotta follow that framework and you can't just be marketing and sales. And actually I think salesy, as you mentioned, is gonna be like the destroyer of all brands
yes.
very quickly, and you're just going to disappear off the face of the digital earth if you're salesy all the time everywhere you go, right? So it's about engagement, about authenticity, about
Yes.
education, right? About all those things. And that's the path forward. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that because it sounds like work, but there's a lot of work to be done here, right? And it has
Yes.
to be sort of an ongoing kind of engagement to make it happen, right? So yeah, you have your kind of audit that you do, and then obviously, but you start kind of a little bit of focusing on the content piece. Is there anything you do kind of like, let's talk about websites a little bit. Is there anything you're sort of recommending on the technical on-page website side of things, or beyond sort of structure of data?
I think structure's a big deal, but if there's anything in terms of on page, it is really like, it's back to copywriting, I think, because your content, and maybe you have schema and it's running in the background and that's doing its work for you, but then you're mentioned. But when you think about people coming from an LLM that offers responses like that, these people that are searching are primed for speed. And so when they land on your website, they don't want chunky text blocks. They don't want, I mean, technically you're not going to be recommended doing a lot of those things anyways, but I think it's really important to keep that in mind, is to keep it skimmable. Like I remember seeing a stat where it was like there was a blog post, but at the top of the blog post was 3 points that were key takeaways of this blog post, which was essentially, in a way, it's kind of on. So in the past, you never wanted to give away your top tips in your blog post. You wanted to keep those down to the bottom, and then you'd have a link to some promo, right? And that's not the truth anymore. It's all up front, it's in bullet points, and those are the highest performing blogs.
Another kind of topic that I'm curious to get your perspective on, and something I've been spending a lot of time on. So for context, I've spoken to a lot of tourism leaders over the summer actually, because I'm building a tool to help specifically tourism like DMOs. There may be a hotel sort of application later, but that's not my first kind of place I'm starting. But you know, one of the things you talk about as well is concerns about the hotel tech stack. Just overall, to me, concerns of the incredible amount of tech out there, the lack of communication between technologies, the sort of like it's sort of just all over the map, and how can anybody make sense of any of it? So I can talk for hours about this, my perspective, but I'm curious about your perspective on the tech stack and the problems with it. And, are there solutions you're sort of recommending on that side of things, or is it just sort of identifying the problems first and then going from there?
Yeah, I think it really boils down to identifying the problems and also understanding, like, because you're running into frictions with tech, doesn't mean that you throw it out. Sometimes it means, because I've worked with tech providers who they get you on, like, and some of the work that I do is reduce risk for the clients I work with. So I go through all the demos and then I get them to sort of a late stage based on what we need in marketing. And that's it. Then they drop off. You're left to use this tool after that. And you don't know what you don't know all the time. And so working with vendors who are going to be communicating with you, updating you, providing information, instead of you having to go with that to them. Can I do this? Can we do this? And I think that that's a starting point before you throw some of that out, is saying, can we optimize what we already have?
So it's not necessarily about sort of one technology is better than the other, but maybe this technology comes with better support. Or did you know that these guys even have support? Or, here's how to access that support. And is that sort of more the conversation you're having?
I think support is going to be so important going forward because there's so many pieces. There's so many vendors that do one thing. And so you're layering all of this, and marketing is often the folks that are managing a lot of these pieces and websites and personalization and agents and bots and so on. And it's a lot. But one of my biggest concerns that's coming up is around, like, when we talk about content and being found, with the agent mode on in ChatGPT. And I mentioned ChatGPT. I know it's not the only one out there, but I mention it because it's what a lot of people are using. But in agent mode, they're able to, provide booking links. So 2 nights, Banff, at this price for this many people, we want to do this. ChatGPT can put together that itinerary, offer you a booking link. And, I think my biggest concern that's coming up is around booking engines that don't have open APIs and that there's no MCP connection ready yet. So what's the default? The OTAs. The OTAs are ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're on top of it. They're
So
tech
then we're
companies
going
at
to
the end of
have
the day,
this.
right?
Right. So we're going to have hopefully marketing teams working hard to be mentioned, to be recommended, but then it's going to bounce if we're not working with booking systems. And that's one of, like, the red flags that I'm trying to raise. It's like we need to, I'm hoping that all the property management systems and booking engine systems are pressing into this. But I think hoteliers could benefit from, like, where are you with this? Where's your roadmap? Like, when is this coming in? What's your plan?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share a story about one of our clients that wasn't getting sort of sales happening to the extent that they wanted to. And, sort of they ended up throwing away their booking engine, right before their busy season, and learning a new booking engine because it was going to be amazing. And back to what we talked about earlier, it wasn't the booking engine, it was the people and their use of the booking engine and the culture around it. And so it's like, they basically like launched a new booking engine, like busiest season ever, kind of lost the summer, honestly.
It's hard.
And and then there was like, no, maybe it's a marketing issue. It's like, no, marketing is like crushing it. It's not a marketing issue. Like, you're getting tons, you're not converting, you're like, but it's like your inventory is not up to date. You're like, there's all these things. So it's like the technology is only as good as the people using it, right? And the sort of like the processes around it and the culture around it, and like, you know what I mean? And I'm sure this is what you talk about a lot, but
Yeah, that's a
this
hard
is
story.
it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
it's tough. It's
once you
tough.
make a
And so,
decision like that, you're like hanging everything. You're like, life is going to be so much better, and we're going to like get our
right.
conversion rates up, and we're going to do all these things. And it's a real devastating blow
It
because that's
is. And like
bottom of the
literally,
funnel. That's money in the bank or not.
100%, an
Yeah.
entire season kind of like lost, right? And like literally thousands of leads coming in that
Yeah.
aren't being converted. And I mean, it's just like to me, it's just like devastating to even see it. And so, it's to your point, I think to me, this whole kind of AI revolution we're going through and a lot of the work you're talking about, to me, it's like everybody needs to take a bit of a step back, start having a big picture view of what they're doing, what their goals are, and to the point of what we started with, start creating some alignment, cultural alignment, training plans, right? Because this has nothing to do with the technology. I mean, it has something to do with the technology, but it's a people and culture issue first, and a processes and systems second, and then the technology is just the enabler if you can align everything else up first. That's sort of, I think, what the message I want to start to try to get across to people as much as possible sounds like the message you're trying to get across to people as much as possible, right? Is that alignment piece?
Yes. Yes. Because, yeah, we don't want to have stories like that. We don't want to have, like hopes dashed
Well, on
because
the
the cycles
OTAs,
are so short in hotels. And, when we have those core pieces, there's no denying that there's a lot of churn, there's a lot of turnover in hospitality. And so having these core systems in place really not only helps reduce that, but also lets you be like, okay, we have a person who's coming in and they get up to speed faster. Like we're able to do what we need to do faster.
yeah. I'm curious about sort of that second piece, the systems and processes part of it. So when I think about systems and processes, I think about standard operating procedures, people following those procedures, sort of like, all that kind of stuff, right? And I guess my question to you is when you sort of see your client base, is that lacking, generally speaking, that sort of that real process kind of here's the SOP, here's how it does, here's the training on the SOP, make sure we understand it. Is that a missing component that you see a lot of?
Not with the clients that I work with. They've really been very diligent on their own in doing it. But one way I think they need to adapt it is to put it in a digital repository that can be easily searched from, this is what I heard you talk about, Peter, in Tourism Industry Association conference, was this piece there where people can just do a quick search and it will just pull up, here's how I unclog a drain, or here's how, whatever it may be. And I think that that is productivity, that is empowerment, that is job satisfaction. Nobody wants to feel frustration. So I think that there's so many ways to take your SOPs or your dusty manuals, put them into a digital format, and really make them sing for your organization.
Yeah, and I'll just say, like, there's some real out of the box opportunities to do that. So, first of all, if you don't know Google's Notebook LM, that's a really easy way to bring your SOPs to life. It's an easy searchable thing. What are the 5 steps to do X, Y, and Z? Boom, it's done, right? It's all built. So that's one tool anybody can apply that like tomorrow, easy to do. And then there's sort of beyond that, there's all kinds, I'm actually building right now internally for myself a database that's going to be in Azure cloud. And literally, I'm like everything I've ever said, written, every keynote presentation, every conversation is going to go in there. I'm basically cloning myself. And then it's going to serve as a foundation for all kinds of things after that, right?
Yeah.
And, so that's a little more kind of advanced in terms of a way to do it. But I'm literally building an AI agent workforce built on everything that we've done so far as an organization
Yes.
to help us bring all that to life, to help us accelerate things, right? So there's lots of ways to do this, and it's not, there's a lot of inexpensive, fairly easy ways to do this
Mhm.
today available. So I think that's, one takeaway for people listening to this is, if worst, go Google Notebook LM, look for it, put 3 or 4 SOPs in there and start asking questions and just see how it works because it's
Yes.
really magical, right?
Yes. That's an easy lift. Yeah.
Yeah. And we built, similarly, just some testing. We built, for example, and then, then it comes down to we built like a RAG model, retrieval augmented generation model internally where, it's in our WhatsApp. So that's our communication tool internally.
Oh,
So I can
nice.
ask WhatsApp about my SOPs, my vacation policy, my whatever, right? So, the other piece I'd say to this is really important. This is the hard part about AI adoption and these tools is, we're asking people to change the way they work. And so we also have to be mindful of how do people work right now, and can we make these tools kind of accessible to people in the place they're already used to, kind of like looking for them, right? So again, my team uses WhatsApp, so we built a system that speaks through WhatsApp. That's our chatbot
Yeah,
internally, and so it's great because we're all used to using it, right? So HR Sally is what we call her, and she's got all the answers to all the HR questions you could possibly
perfect.
ask, right? So
Yeah.
that's just one example, but I think again, think about trying to make it accessible in the places people are already communicating. That'll help with adoption, I think, a lot faster.
Yes, and it applies to marketing playbooks, and you can have them all particularly nuanced and load up your marketing plan, all of your brand voice, like everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really changing the way, really, we're transforming the way business is done from the ground up, right? Is kind of what's happening. Yeah. So now we're going to get into the topic I love to talk about because, we started before we hit record talking about this, but let's talk about OTAs. And let's, start off with talking about OTAs, and, kind of the state of OTAs today, the state of hotel marketing today vis-a-vis OTAs, and maybe kind of, maybe we'll start off with what you think needs to happen from a hotel perspective, and then maybe where you see OTAs kind of going, and what are the opportunities there.
Yeah, this week was a conversation that I just had with 10 people in a workshop that was how to win-win with OTAs, because the mentality largely is in the hotel industry is they're a necessary evil. And that's, the approach. And I don't totally disagree with that, but I also think that that's a challenging mindset to really think that you're going to win. If you feel like they're a necessary evil, then you're kind of already, shot yourself in the foot with your approach. So I think hoteliers can need to know how much of their business is going to the OTAs and what does that mean for their what does that mean for their profitability? Because I do see a lot of hoteliers that just sort of leave it open. It's just open year round. There's like four levers to pull really when you think about how to, like, OTAs are just another partner. They're just another distribution method. Yes, they're huge, but I think the shift, OTA commissions largely get buried into the cost of sales. So if you were to if, like, I don't know the clean math on it, but I'm just did some numbers. So 5 million, a hotel doing 5 million in revenue, and I think it was like 56% of it was from the OTA channel. That's like $700,000 in commissions. So if we think of the OTAs as a billboard, as a billboard effect, that they've done really well with their marketing and so on, and we're using them as a billboard effect, as it's commonly understood, we would never spend $700,000 on marketing. Like, I don't know a hotel who spends that amount of money on marketing, but yet largely the industry is okay with this. And I think that the first step is just saying, let's just put eyes on this, and make some decisions. And I find that the thing that hurts hotels most is not making any decisions, is their decision. And that's a bit sad because I think there's so many missed opportunities for revenue. So looking at the OTAs as a partner, as a distribution partner, as you would any other sort of channel, is important. And then knowing which levers. The OTAs are tricky. In the last 10 years, all they've been doing is, well, they've always had a big, huge marketing engine. They pretty much, I won't say brainwashed, but they convinced the public that their rates were better. And they had hotels mostly in a submissive pose where we were just glad to, give them the inventory. And I would love to see hoteliers take more control back and say, no, we're going to do this promotion when we need it, and we're going to close it off when we don't. And when we get into conversations with market managers, they're often using, oh, but your competitor's using it. They use these very bullish tactics. And I think hoteliers need to feel more in a position of control and say, you know what, we can do this, like we can do it. But the thing is you just can't all of a sudden, OTAs aren't a light switch that you flip on and off. It's a tap that you close and you open as you need it. And you do all the other things over here to prepare those strong foundations, especially I think LLMs and AI mentions and recommendations is the best thing to happen to independent hotels. It is the biggest opportunity, and I'm excited about what that could mean. But they need to also take care of how they're approaching OT.
Yeah, no, and I love the way you framed it because if you think about $700,000, first of all, there's two marketing people here that would happily help you use some of that money more effectively. But that aside, joking aside, if you think about, let's take $50,000 and let's commit that to really sort of like getting there on the AI search side, on the
Yes.
right. Man, you can make some serious damage. And I really want to throw out some encouraging comments here because I think the thing that people don't appreciate about what's happening in the world right now with like large language models and the interruption of like the disruption of AI is that in like the entire everything we know about business structures, everything we know is ripe for challenge. And so, like, okay, maybe OTAs have dominated for the last 10, 15 years. There's a real opportunity for that completely to be changed. Those guys could be taken down, but there needs to be an effort, right? And I
Yes.
think that we've never been more ripe for real disruption and for real change here. And so I think, that's why I actually the big reason I wanted to bring you onto the show today is because like I think all the things you're talking about are exactly the conversation we need to be having with industry. And we need to encourage industry to get its power back and get its voice back and
Yes.
and to look at what's happening and say, you know what? Fuck this. Like we're gonna do this, right? And we're gonna solve this, right? And so
Yes.
I really
Yeah.
want to kind of encourage people everywhere I can and just to sort of think about, you know, all of the business rules are in the past. There's new rules being written in literally in current time. So be part of the like let's write the rules. And you mentioned something that really resonates with me is, sort of a non-decision or inaction is a decision. And I'm
Yes.
seeing the same thing on AI adoption, right? It's like I have conversations over and over and over again of people, yeah, we need to do this. Yeah, we need to do this. And, interestingly, tourism has always been sort of seen as this laggard industry when it comes to technology adoption. While that's true in some ways, it's not in other ways. Actually, we live and die on our use of technology as an industry. And so I
Yes.
think we need to change the narrative around where we're just these laggards and it's like, no, we can actually like leverage the technology and the change that's happening to create a
Mhm.
new world for ourselves. So anyways, that's my little soapbox there.
I love it.
I
I
think
love
as
it.
many people need to be talking about this as possible. This is my go forward kind of talking
Mhm.
points at conferences and stuff is trying to encourage people to sort of think differently. So on
Yes.
that note, kind of what do you think are the opportunities for like so what is your vision for how things are changing in this market and sort of the do you think OTAs are gonna obviously OTAs are not dumb and there's a lot of money at stake here so they're gonna keep evolving. So what do you think the future of OTAs is and then what do you think sort of the opportunity for hotels and maybe DMOs is around this conversation?
I, yeah, it's a good, it's riding the coattails of our previous conversation around, making investments in your own assets. Because when you think back to that $50,000, Peter, that you said, if you just took $50,000 and you dedicated it to this, you're not just dedicating to those reservations because that $700,000 price tag that you just spent with the OTAs gets you nothing. It gets you the business for today. But if you took that money and you put it in, you're getting business over the years. It's compounding like interest. And I think that that's a perspective, looking at that. I've worked with some hotels where I go in and look at their database and their, 50% OTAs revenue, their contribution of revenue is from the OTAs. 50% of their database is also dead. They cannot use it. They cannot remarket to those people. They're just serving the OTA guests. And that's like soul crushing for me as a former GM and in marketing. So where are the OTAs going? Well, they're not going to give up. Like they're not really going anywhere. They are building deeper loyalty programs. They are building, like we just saw booking.com come out with, integration with TikTok. Like their tentacles are going deep and they're in. So I asked myself, why would TikTok, like, is this an opportunity for other businesses, right? Like, is Expedia going to show up in Facebook or whatever it may be? And then, but this is how they're expanding because they see what's happening. I would love that the independent hotels and the hotels actually see the same thing. Like, oh, if the OTAs are trying to go deeper, it means that we're a threat. It means that there's something that they don't, that they see that we could benefit from that they don't want us to have. So let's get on with it.
And the $700,000 you mentioned, it's really important to mention also that that's $700,000 leaving the community
Yes.
from just one property. And you multiply it by 30 or 40, depends on the community or whatever. That's millions and billions of dollars just sort of going to large multinational companies, leaving community.
Yes.
And that's heart-wrenching in terms of like
Yes.
the impact on community, right? And the impact on what can be done. Imagine all that money being left in community and then reinvesting that as a sort of as a
Yes.
community, as a DMO or whatever it is,
Yeah.
smartly, right? So
Yeah.
that
Putting it
sort of
back in
brings
your property or staff
putting it back in your
engagement
property,
or
right? Yeah.
training or really, yeah, I don't think hoteliers are short on ideas for how to spend extra profit. But a lot of people think that's really, really hard to do. And just on those numbers alone that we've talked about, shifting 10% means selling 2 less rooms a day. I have a cash calculator that hoteliers can plug in their dollars and then they plug in their average daily rate and it will auto calculate. And so they can see like what's possible. It's possible.
I love that. I love that you have that calculator. I think that makes it really real for
Yeah.
people. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we hit record here, I kind of shared my vision for this sort of like community-based DMO OTA kind of concept. It's got a lot of work to do, but I think for me, I think there's a role for DMOs to play here, and I think that there's an opportunity for kind of I'm sort of a DMO to sort of partner with all the different properties in their region and to really think through this problem and think through how to solve it. I'm very committed to this. I think it needs to happen. Hopefully you're also, be part of that conversation and,
Yeah.
let's find a community. Let's sort of build a proof of concept. Let's make it happen. And
Yeah.
let's shake this whole thing up is what I think.
Exactly. I think DMOs have such an important role because they serve all the stakeholders, same stakeholders that Expedia does.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But they also serve the community, and that's the big
And the
difference too,
community.
right?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
very
And
much.
that's the missing
That's
piece. And
that's the
obviously
difference.
Expedia is going to go in and do their thing, and my intention here isn't to trash Expedia or any other kind of
Mhm.
OTA or whatever, but they have their business models and they're just very different from what a DMO's business model is, right? And so just by nature of just what the entity has been created to do. I mean, to me, the DMO is, you talk about sort of the role of DMOs changing from marketing to management to destination development and economic development. It's like, to me, this is actually like a big piece of it. If we can sort of get the DMO to play a bigger role and actually sort of, again, potentially create this sort of community OTA concept. One, it gives them access to data that they don't have now. Two, potential funding for the community that stays in the community. And two, completely change the game on the economic development conversation, right? And so, there's just so many benefits to it. So, anyways, I
Yes.
will be talking about this until I make it happen or somebody makes it happen. So,
I can't wait.
it's a big topic and there's lots to do, but I think it's a worthwhile conversation. So, obviously, we're kind of running at the end of time here for our podcast, but I think we've started to cover some topics. I think we could probably talk for a few more hours if we wanted to. But I do appreciate your time today, and I appreciate your perspective. And I love everything you're doing on LinkedIn. So keep going.
Thank you, Peter.
And I just want to thank you for joining me today. And hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent, thank you. And then just before we go, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, well, you've mentioned LinkedIn a couple of times, but every 2 weeks I write a 4 minute. I try to keep to 4 minutes because I know how busy people are. And it's a newsletter called The Bookings Boost, and you can visit malfairmarketing.com.
Wonderful. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Bye.